Morning. You know, an old friend of our family, a Jew who converted to Catholicism, used to talk a lot about tell us stories about his father, who was an Orthodox rabbi. and I remember him once saying that his father would often criticize fellow Jews because, in his words, they tried to turn God into a mensch. Now, if you're not from New York, Mensch is a German word that in Yiddish evolved into a term for a true human being, a person of honor. But God, the rabbi would say, is no Mensch. He's God. St. Paul, a Pharisee, a rabbi, a teacher, says much the same in today's reading from Romans. Oh, the depths of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God, how inscrutable are his judgments, how unsearchable his ways. In other words, God is no mensch. He's not like us, and he's not a superman. Paul continues, though, with a prayer, doesn't he? A doxology to ensure we understand that God is, well, he's beyond our understanding. For who has known the mind of the Lord? Who has been his counselor? Who has given him anything that he may be repaid? For from him and through him and for him are all things. To God be glory forever. Yes, indeed, as God reminded his prophet Isaiah, my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways. I think sometimes, perhaps more than sometimes, we forget this and we try to recreate God in our image to turn him into just another good guy, to turn him into a mensch. But Jesus disabuses us of this error, and in today's gospel passage from Luke, he shows us how very different God's ways are from ours. You know, Jesus had been invited to dine at the home of a Pharisee. And he asked his host to look at himself and examine his motives. Who do you bring into your home, the rich and the famous? Why do you share your bounty with them? Is it only to ingratiate yourself with them so they'll invite you back in return? Indeed, Mr. Pharisee, we can almost hear him saying, why did you invite me? Is it because I'm kind of a local celebrity? And you hope this fame will rub off on you? His words tend to hit home, don't they? It was the hypocrisy of the Pharisees that Jesus so often condemned. In their obsessive concern for the minutiae of the law, they neglected God's greatest commandment, the commandment to love God above all things and love neighbor above self. You know, St. Charles Borromeo, whose memorial we celebrate today, once wrote these words to the priests he supervised. Be sure that you first preach by the way you live. If you do not, people will notice that you say one thing but live otherwise, and your words will bring only cynical laughter and a derisive shake of the head. You know, 15, 16 years ago when Diane and I first started helping at the Wildwood Soup Kitchen, I encountered a few strange attitudes. For example, one of our volunteers who used to serve desserts, she expected a certain kind of behavior from our guests. If someone said nothing when she handed them a dessert, she'd challenge them with, "You didn't say thank you." This, of course, had to change. And so we issued a policy statement that stated, every soup kitchen guest honors us by accepting our hospitality, which we interpret as their deepest heartfelt gratitude. In other words, their being there is enough. Yes, brothers and sisters, we can sometimes be very much like the Pharisees, can't we? Always looking for payback. Oh, we had those new neighbors for dinner 6 months ago, and they haven't invited us back. Can you imagine that? Yeah. But have we opened our homes and our hearts to those who can't return the favor, to those who thank us only by their presence? Have you and I invited the rejected of the world into our homes? When did the poor, the lonely, the lame, the blind sit at our table? There are a lot of lonely people in our community, folks, in every neighborhood. People who feel abandoned by God, people who think they're abandoned by their neighbors and by others. But you and I are called to do God's work, to go to the abandoned and show them God's love. You don't have to look for them. They're all around us. You know who they are. St. Charles said something else. With charity, love, no man is lost. Without it, no man is saved. The call to love is really just a simple call to humility. To realize we are no greater. Indeed, we are often farther from God than the poor in spirit who cry out silently in their suffering. Yes, brothers and sisters, humility is a very demanding virtue. It takes greatness to become little, strength to become weak. It takes wisdom to embrace all that Jesus demands of us, to embrace the folly of the cross. And it's the cross. It's in the crucified Jesus that we encounter the divine paradox, the humility and greatness and otherness of God. God love you.